All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. This is the Importing to QuickBooks webinar. This is hosted by LedgerSync, and my name is Christopher Reagan. I am an accountant just like you. I'm not a salesperson, nor am I a software developer. I do own LedgerSync, and like you, I serve the small and medium sized business markets. I've been a practicing CPA for about 15 years. I own a company down in Naples, Florida called Reagan Financial, and we have about 200 monthly bookkeeping clients. We have about 500 clients total. There are several that we don't do monthly bookkeeping for, but today we're going to be talking about importing into QuickBooks, and this is a quick little look at what we're going to be taking you through today. And so up here at the top, the first thing is we're going to be downloading the Web Connect file. This is a Web Connect file that I produced using LedgerSync. And using LedgerSync, I can create both a Web Connect file, which is also known as a QBO file. I can create an Excel spreadsheet. I can do several things. We're then going to import that into QuickBooks by going to File, Utilities, Import Web Connect. We're going to take a look at the transactions list and add payees and accounts to the transactions that are not coded by rules. I'm going to take you through how to create rules inside QuickBooks so that when you import transactions into the software, QuickBooks begins to learn and begins to understand what certain transactions are month after month, and does that work for you. And also a little bit about the reconciliation functions once you're done doing your imports. So I'm going to end this and take you into the software now. And I'm not going to talk a lot about LedgerSync here. I'm going to assume that you have seen the LedgerSync live demo. If you have not, take a look at that as well. It teaches you how to create a Web Connect file, which is this guy right here that I've put on my desktop. You can see I'm in a hosted environment. LedgerSync works just fine in a hosted environment. If you have QuickBooks on your desktop, that's fine. If you're hosted, that's fine too. I've created a Web Connect file in the desktop here, and I'm going to come back over here to my QuickBooks file and open up this Web Connect file. So here's where we get started. We go to File, Utilities, Import, Web Connect. And this is going to bring that file into the bank feed screen for us. And all it's having me do is find where it is on my desktop. It says, where's the file? It's right here. I'm going to hit open. And it'll take QuickBooks just a second. There it is. It says everything's good. You've successfully done it. And I'm going to click OK. Now, it's important to say we haven't actually imported all those transactions into QuickBooks necessarily. We've imported it into this bank feed screen. If I want to, I can go in here and delete all those transactions and redo this if I want. So there's no importing into QuickBooks is not about just moving transactions before you've even had a chance to look at them. It's about sorting and going through each of them one at a time if you want to. When I get to this screen, I'm going to click on this button right here. That's going to get me to the main screen that I'm going to work in, the transaction list. And it'll take a little second to pop up here. And as you can see, I have several different things going on here, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what you're looking at and what this is. The scenario that I had set up before I imported this transaction is I had a simulated client where the client entered some of their information in their QuickBooks file, but didn't enter all of it. And importing to QuickBooks is really easy if you're working from a blank register each month, whereas you're kind of like you're doing your write-up or traditional bookkeeping for clients. But this is a simulation that covers both kinds of clients, whether you had them not putting in any transactions into their file, or like the one that I've produced here, they've put some transactions in here. And the problem is they haven't put all of them. And the point I'm trying to make is importing to QuickBooks is great for both kinds of clients. I hear quite a bit people say to me, Well, I have clients that do their own bookkeeping, and I just come in and review it and make sure that it's accurate and cleaned up. You should still definitely be doing the import, because what QuickBooks quickly is going to show you, as it's shown right here, is it will tell you what the client has in there and these gold transactions, what they're missing. And you can very quickly go through all of this information and say at the end of the process, I'm done, I know it's done, and it was really fast and easy. So let me first take you through what we're looking at here. This section down here on the bottom is all the transactions that were in the file that I imported. And you can see if I scroll down, they're color coded over here on the left to match these color codes up here at the top. Let me tell you what each color code means. The blue transactions, these guys right here, are the transactions that my client had already entered. And when I imported this bank statement, QuickBooks quickly matched them and found it and said, okay, we see that the client's already entered these transactions that are in the statement. The red is statement or transactions that were not in the file. They were in the bank file that I imported, but not in QuickBooks. But what QuickBooks is telling us is, hey, I want to book these transactions, and I think I know where they go. That's why it says change by rules. The gold are transactions that were never ever in QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is not sure what to do with them now that you're trying to import them in the bank file. So as you can see, it quickly matches the stuff that's in there and shows you what is not in there but needs to be. It makes guesses at what it thinks certain things should be based on the rules that you've made, but it gives you the ability to book all of them and to review all of them. So the first thing that I need to do, and this is part of my workflow in our office, the first thing I do is I take a look at these blue, because these are the easiest. These are the ones that were already in there. The client had already put them in here. And I just need to check and make sure that I understand how they've booked them here. And this is a sample company, so I'm not going to go through it too much, but in your everyday life, you definitely would. You'd want to make sure that this was actually supposed to go to payroll and consulting income, that kind of thing. Once I've reviewed each of those transactions, you can see how both the red and the blue transactions are checkmarked here. And that goes all the way to the bottom of the screen. If I want to enter these blue transactions and tell this particular screen, hey, these look good, go ahead and mark them off your list, I would come right down here to Batch Actions, and I would click Add Approve. And all of these transactions, even including the red ones, would be approved in QuickBooks. But I don't want to do that yet because while I've checked the blue ones, I have not checked the red ones yet. Let's talk a little bit about the red ones. The red ones, this is, again, transactions that were not in QuickBooks that this bank import is trying to pull in. And what QuickBooks has done is looked at the name right here, downloaded as, and said, I think this is supposed to go to QB bank fees, and the account is supposed to be bank service charges. So I need to go through here and just review and make sure that these transactions are how I want them. Once I'm done with that, I now can hit Batch Actions and click Add Approve. But I'm going to hold off on that because I want to show you guys some things, and I could get them out of the way, but I'm not going to right now. The real work of importing into QuickBooks is not this part down here. You can quickly review what the import is trying to bring in and put into the account. What you need to really review are the gold, because in here QuickBooks has no idea how to book this stuff, and it's probably an opportunity to create some kind of rule so that next time QuickBooks sees these transactions, it will know what to do with them. So let's take a look at this Hartford pay cycle transaction right here. It's a payment of $35.80, and I'm going to tell QuickBooks that I want this to the payee to be the Hartford. So you see how it starts to populate based on my payees. I'm going to tab over, and I'm going to tell it I want this to go to insurance expense. Okay, just like you would if you were in the register. However, I'm going to do something a little different here. Instead of just approving this transaction, because you can see it's ready. QuickBooks knows I'm ready to approve this guy. I'm going to come over here to the right side, and this is an important menu over here. This is the menu where I can add more details. If I already had a bill for this expense that I needed to match it to, watch when I click this. If the vendor was RF Group, I've got a kind of a dummy bill in here. See that? If you needed to match this payment to a bill, you can do that in here. But what I really want to show you is when I click Quick Add right here. Watch what happens. It brings up this screen that's an important screen called Rule Creation. When I'm on this screen, I've got a couple options. The first is I can check this box down here at the bottom that says don't ask me again, just create rules automatically. And if I check this and click OK, from now on, every time I click over here Quick Add, it's just going to create a rule for me. And what this rule right now says is if the description contains the Hartford Pacer, Pay Cycle, whatever that's saying right there, then rename the transaction to Hartford and categorize the account to insurance expense. And I don't know if I really like that name. I think you guys can agree that these numbers, some of this stuff could change each time, and I don't want to have to create a new rule every time. So watch what I can do. This is really cool. I can go into Select, and I can go into Edit Rule. Watch what I'm going to do here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say anytime the description just contains Hartford. Now I realize that you may have multiple vendors named Hartford or something like that, so you'd need to do something a little different, but in this case, this client doesn't. Anything that says Hartford is this insurance expense. Now I don't have to worry about what other kind of gobbledygook is on the transaction from the bank. I can just say anytime you see Hartford, make the rule, change it to Hartford Insurance and insurance expense. And when I click Save here, it says, okay, just containing the Hartford. You okay with that? I'm going to click OK. And look what happened. You see something up here? See how that turned green? That added that one transaction and created the rule so that next time, next month, let's say, when I import again and it sees something that says Hartford, it's going to put that transaction in red right here saying, we've changed that transaction using a rule. You need to okay it, but then bring it into an import. So far I've added a transaction right here. Now, if I wanted to do a deposit, let's take a look at this guy right here. This is a deposit. This one's for $836.97. See that? And I know that my client created an invoice for this but never received the payment, which is what I'm doing here. So watch what I'm going to do here. I come in here. I'm going to click Add More Details. And you see this right here? See, there's my invoice right here. It says select each undeposited payment received or open invoice included in this deposit. Well, I'm going to check this one right here. And now whenever I approve this deposit, it's going to receive that payment against that invoice and clear that out for me too. So now I'm going to click Add to QuickBooks. It's saying, do you want to create a rule here? I'm going to click Ignore, because I don't necessarily want every single deposit going to, the same account. And now I've got 2 transactions that have been added to QuickBooks. Now at this point, I'm also going to go in and show you what happens. Remember all these red and blue transactions that I was good with, that I'd already checked? I'm going to come in here to Batch Actions. I'm going to click Add Approve. Bang. Those are now going to be added and approved, and I'm really making progress now. Now you can see I've got 29 green and I've only got 13 left that are gold. Now most of these transactions here are checks, and this is pretty common for firms even like mine that have been on LedgerSync for some time. What we do is we go into LedgerSync and we have to code each of these using the LedgerSync images. Now, as you know, LedgerSync has a really nifty feature that your bank does not have, where you can look at 50 checks at a time and just kind of scroll through them and code them as you go. So that's what you would do here, is you would just add the payee, the account. As you do that, these check boxes are going to get filled, and when you get through with these 13, you click Add Approve again, and you're done. All these will go to green at that point. Two things that means. One, it means that you have now checked the bank statement, and all the transactions in the bank statement are now in your bookkeeping. The second thing that it means is that your accounts are actually reconciled. So whenever you're doing this action, you don't have to necessarily go back and reconcile your accounts. Now, I will tell you, at Reagan Financial, we do that a little bit because I want to just double check everything. And what I do is I make my guys come up here to banking and tell them to go to reconcile. When they do that, they just click, they enter the ending balance, and they just click all the transactions, make sure it equals 0, and they just very quickly reconcile the bank accounts, because a lot of times we're giving those reconciliation reports to clients. But you don't necessarily have to, because QuickBooks will remember that you were doing this and that's where you left off. So that is a very quick but somewhat detailed look at how to do this work inside QuickBooks and how to import into QuickBooks. Let's go over one thing again, the rule making piece. Let's just do that one more time here. Let's go to this online deposit here. This was a payment of $3. If I wanted to come in here and click Quick Add, see how I get an error? So you can't do it yet. You need to go in and enter your payee. So I'm going to say this is bank fees and bank fees, bank service charges. This is a refund of bank service charges or a cost of bank service charges, whatever it might be. And I'll click Quick Add again. Now I get the rule. So that's an important point that I wanted to make sure I show, is that you won't get the rules screen until you've filled in the payee and the amount. And once I get the rules screen, and I'm going to get this every single time if I go to Quick Add till I get my rules set up the way that I want, I can come in here to Edit Rule. Now if I wanted just to change the name of this to anytime you see online deposit, let's say, that you put that to bank fees and bank service charges, you can do that and click Save. I'm not going to do that, but that's how you do it. You click Save, and you've got your rule made then. So that is a great overview of how this whole thing works. And I want you to send us emails, give us phone calls. If you have any kind of problems with this as you're using LedgerSync, please let me know, because we've got folks here that can take you through this start to finish. Reuse this video and this webinar. We are recording it today, so reuse it if you need a refresher course on it. And until then, thanks very much. We're going to open it up for some Q&A, but I'm going to shut down the video portion of it right now. So bear with me, everybody, and I'll be right back.